Hello, I'm Charlene White. The family of Ian Tomlinson, who died after being pushed to the ground by a police officer during a protest in 2009, have accepted an apology and undisclosed damages from the Metropolitan Police. Ian's widow, Julia, described the out-of-court settlement as close as we're going to get to justice. Ronke Phillips has more.
It marks the end of a 4-year battle for the family, who've endured 3 post-mortems, a full jury inquest and a criminal trial. Today they received an apology and a payout, but for them it has never been about the money.
All we wanted in the beginning was an admission of who killed our dad or who was responsible or contributing to killing our dad. And we got that today. So, we can finally move on and put this to bed. Whether it's the answers that we wanted or not, it's some sort of acknowledgement to the family that someone was responsible.
Until this footage emerged of Ian Tomlinson being pushed violently to the ground, it had been presumed he died from natural causes, the Metropolitan Police denying any responsibility. Today, in what amounted to an embarrassing climb down, their statement included 4 separate apologies, the first directly to the Tomlinson family.
Today I apologise unreservedly for Simon Harwood's use of excessive and unlawful force, which caused Mr Tomlinson's death, and for the suffering and distress caused to his family as a result.
The Tomlinson family decided to take civil action against the Met after being left with contradictory verdicts and findings. 3 pathologists found Ian Tomlinson had died from internal bleeding brought on by being pushed by Simon Harwood, who was later sacked from the force. Then an inquest jury ruled he'd been unlawfully killed, but the former officer was found not guilty of manslaughter after a criminal trial. Today the Met admitted he was culpable.
I take full responsibility for the actions of Simon Harwood on the 1st of April 2009. His actions fell far below the standard we expect from our officers. I accept the finding of the inquest that Mr Tomlinson was unlawfully killed.
And do you feel now that justice has been achieved for you? Do you feel as though you've got justice?
I'm glad that, we've got an answer, and more so for my mum and my sisters. Simon's the one that has to live with the truth.
And that's punishment enough, do you think, for him?
I think that, if I was to answer that and say, yeah, that's punishment enough, you'd know I'm lying. But it's as good as I'm going to get.
And now the family plan to move on, grieve properly for the first time and start living their lives again.
From tomorrow, it's a whole new day. It's a whole new week, month, year for us tomorrow. It's something that we haven't, normal life hasn't been normal for us for a long time.
Ronke Phillips, ITV News, Central London.
Well, the Tomlinson family solicitor is Jules Carey, and he joins me now in the studio. Thanks very much for coming in. This is the end of a very long fight for the family, isn't it?
It's been a very long 4.5 years, and there's been few moments where the family have felt that a lot of progress has been made. They've had a lot of very, very difficult times, but today really does mark the end of both the campaign and the legal battle, and as they say, they feel that this is as close as they're going to get to justice, and they're looking forward to moving on.
Now, I can imagine that their life has almost been on hold until they can try and get to the end of this. Do you think they'll be able to get back to some kind of normality now?
I really hope so. I mean, what they wanted from the very outset was they wanted to establish the truth, and they wanted the force to apologise for what had happened to them. I think that today we have got that. The force have acknowledged that it was their officer who unlawfully killed Ian, and I really genuinely hope that this gives enough to the family in terms of justice for them to finally find some peace about what has happened.
Well, they've always said, that it wasn't about money. This wasn't about a financial settlement. And Paul King, there in Ronke's package, did talk about Simon Harwood not being sufficiently punished. Is that a thought that's shared with other members of the family?
It was very difficult for the family because obviously at the inquest there was that fantastic verdict which the jury delivered after 6 weeks of careful consideration, saying that Ian had unlawfully been killed. And even though that verdict wasn't overruled or wasn't appealed in some way by the criminal verdict, they sat alongside each other very uncomfortably. But today is, for the family, the final verdict. This is where the police are saying there is no equivocation here, there is no incongruity, this is the final result, and the family will take this as the final verdict and the final word on the fact that, yes, they accept and apologise for Ian's unlawful death.
Now, there are other families who are fighting similar battles where the police are concerned. In your opinion, what lessons should the Metropolitan Police be learning from this?
Well, there's plenty that can be learned, still, I believe. I think the first thing that has to happen is, as soon as there is even the suggestion of police contact, that the IPCC must, as a matter of default, get in there. And in a case like this, obviously it wasn't clear from the outset that there was police contact, but it was a sufficiently politicised environment that, as a matter of default, the police should have got in. But perhaps other important points are the communications that are put out right at the beginning of any case like this. So often it's a situation whereby the deceased, there's reference to the deceased's health. We even saw that 2 weeks ago in Manchester with Jordan Bagley. There's an immediate reference to the health of the individual, and then after that comes some reference to either criminal circumstances. There's reference to the individual causing their own death in some way by their health, and then there's a smear about the circumstance in which it happened. And I think police forces need to pull back from these very negative communications at the outset.
OK, well, Jules Carey, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
The cyclist has died after